All right, let's bring on our panelists and decode what's really charged to you as a flat buyer. Pankaj Bajaj, MD, Eldeco Infrastructure will join us. We also have Ashish Kaul, VP, Federation of Apartment Owners Association, Greater Faridabad, here in the Delhi studio. Nishant Singhal, Promoter and Director, Strategy Investors Clinic, and of course Sameer D'Souza with me to take your Q&As. But before that, also give his view on this discussion. So gentlemen, the way I'm looking at it, if I could just sum up Vasudha's story, one is that there are some irregularities in calculation of price of the flat. The violation is 2 stamp duty rates in one location. How is that possible? Nishant, that question is for you. I mean, how is that possible at all? And I'm not talking about different categories, that it's a different stamp duty for a woman versus, joint holding versus a single main registration. There are times where you've seen differences in just registration values.
See, registration values are announced locally. Okay, so there would be variations because they get revised over a period of time. As far as difference in registration rates between males and females are concerned, for example, in state of Haryana government wants to promote ownership of women in terms of property, so they give a 1% discount. Generally the rate is 7%. If there is a joint owner who's a female, the rate is 6%. Okay. So these are transparent. I don't think so. At least I have not come across a case where there is non-transparency.
Okay, so maybe that's very, very minor. But I think the big thing which a lot of buyers also had an objection to, and Ashish, correct me if I'm wrong, the stamp duty keeps changing, and as the delay happens in possession, that's a big area of concern for the buyer, isn't it?
Correct. See, when I book a flat, I know within 3 years I'll get the delivery of the flat. I'm prepared to shell out the registration charges which will be of that year, particular year. Maybe I know today the collector rate is 10,000 rupees per square yard. So I know in the next 3 years it could be 30,000. So I'm willing to pay that. But when the delay happens for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, the collector rate goes up to 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
That is where I get, the shock.
I'm confused here because I pay my stamp duty on the value that I have signed up for at that particular time when I signed the agreement to sell, and the stamp duties have only been going down. So the consumer should be happy if you pick up the last 10 years.
Not everywhere have stamp duties or circle rates been going down.
Circle rate is a completely different topic altogether. Circle rate relates to the value of the property, and that you should not register below that value, and in 9 out of 10 cases the value in the market is much higher.
Correct.
And if you bought a property before and your transacted value is before, agreement to sell is before, you don't need, circle rate also sometimes doesn't even apply to you. But with respect to stamp duty, if you look at it, it used to be as high as 10 to 12% at one point in time. Today it has come down to 4 to 5% in certain cities and 6 to 7% in certain other cities. So really speaking, this is not that much of a cost.
Oh, it is. It is. That's what you feel.
No,
maybe
with respect
at a certain
to the differential.
No, so it's not come down in every city. I don't think that's correct.
No,
that it's gone down.
Have come down. But see, in an area within sector 75 to 89 in Faridabad, 2 types of duties are being charged. One is 3-4-5% in the same area, and another builder is charging 4-5-6-7%.
All right.
So how can it be that in the same area 2 stamp duty rates can be charged? There has to be uniformity. A builder cannot arbitrarily charge 3-4-5% and 5-6-7%.
But then the builder is committing a fraud. It's as simple as that.
That is what builders do.
Defined by
this is a very small percentage. Increase of 2%. Suppose I was supposed to pay only 4%, but he's charging 6%. I'm paying only 2% extra. But why am I paying 20,000 rupees extra?
But that's to do with the builder, not to do with the government.
Exactly.
It is not to do with the
So we are talking about builder. We are saying how the builders load up your prices. So no, Sameer, we are not saying that the government is at fault.
No, but if you see the builder buyer agreements,
the discussion is that why are builders charging different stamp duties despite being in similar localities?
No, Manisha, if you see the builder buyer agreements, in fact the stamp duty rates are not defined in the builder buyer. It says as per actuals. Correct. Whatever is the rate at the time of registration, and as Sameer mentioned, it is on my original cost of purchase. Okay, so if I bought at 3,000 rupees per square feet in Noida 3 years back, I will pay stamp duty on 3,000 rupees per square feet. Circle rates don't even come in picture. It's only when the property gets resold, the buyer will have to pay based on the circle rates. So
All
A,
right.
stamp duty is defined by government. It cannot be defined by developers.
And you're
B,
saying stamp duty has been
is-
coming down.
Yeah.
Ashish is saying that there are developers who are probably committing some sort of fraud, and stamp duty rates are different by
Correct.
in
One
different
builder
sectors.
in the same sector,
Okay.
two builders are charging two different rates.
but I'm not sure because stamp duty cannot be collected by the developer. It will be collected by
it is always collected by the
It
developer.
is collected by the developer, but he is supposed to ensure that he buys that much worth stamp paper
Yeah.
and gets it registered in favor
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
buyer.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
But it's always collected by the developer.
So what is happening? If it's anyway he's collecting that
It's
duty
a
is
very-
going to the
Government.
Yeah, but it's a
so
very
where
simple
is he
case.
keeping it?
It's a very
He's not
simple
keeping
case
it.
of. I'll
It's
answer that
saying-
question.
yeah.
It's a very simple case of fraud. There are many cases that have come up. This is strange because this is known to everybody.
Right.
The typical cases that come up in such a situation where consumers get really defrauded or defrauded is when the EDC, external development charges, developers play around with, and that's a
Yes.
huge sum of money.
Absolutely. So we are
Stamp
going to
duty
come
is not
to
that much. So I have know of cases where the developer has paid only 80 rupees a square feet and got the license as per 80 rupees a square feet, but the new EDC charges in that sector or micro market was say 300 rupees a square foot. So he went back to the consumer and said the new EDC charges are 300, so you are supposed to pay me 300, which is
Absolutely.
completely criminal. It's a criminal act and it's defrauding the government, in the name of the government, the consumer.
the consumer. So let's just get to that as well. You know, arbitrary addition of overhead costs. Now, what are these costs? There is, of course, BSP, then EDC, one big thing that you
Yes.
pointed out. We also did a story very recently asking where are all the EDC charges. Pankaj, where do all the EDC charges go, and are the developers really in full faith? Can you tell us whether the developers are being completely clean on that front?
Well, I wouldn't deny that there have been reports of developers collecting EDC and then not depositing them. But frankly, it is completely unconscionable. And just like the stamp duty episode that you were talking about, EDC should also be transparent. In fact, in our company, we maintain a separate escrow account. We collect EDC in a separate account and we transparently transfer it to the government. And in fact, if some developers, and it's not that, frankly, I would defend my community by saying I don't think it is rampant. And I don't think that it is happening across the industry that people are collecting excess EDC charges and not transferring to the government. There could be one-off cases which I think should be pursued and prosecuted. Frankly, I can't defend it at all.
No, absolutely. So, but I think there's a disconnect. I don't think it's one-off cases because there have been ample number of stories. Nishant, correct me if I'm wrong. Media has been reporting it quite extensively, and Sameer has been pointing it out on the show as well. EDC, clearly there's a lot of gap.
So I'll answer that question also. There's a gap in 99% of the cases.
Yes.
The gap there is that EDC is paid on built up area and charged on super area.
Super area.
So that in itself is a fraud of 5 to 7 crores per project.
Nishant.
No, I think if you are talking about these aspects, then for example, the difference between the super area and the carpet area, there's a lot of.
So that's the biggest fraud going around in the
Yeah,
country, but
so-
let's not get to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's just say simple things, just the way they kept burdening the consumer. How do you bring in transparency? I mean, EDC is one big thing. So I just wanted, and my viewer needs to know that yes, it's happening and it's quite rampant. Okay, let's come to something called preferred location charges, PLC. Now, for God's sake, in any project, Nishant, take 100 flats, how do 75 have PLC? How can 75 flats out of 100 flats in a project, that's 75% be preferred locations?
So in some projects, 100%.
Yeah, 100% are preferred locations. What is preferred location? I mean, why is every flat a preferred location, and what are these PLC charges? Every flat cannot be a preferred location.
I agree. So, for example, we charge PLC for park-facing apartments. Now, if you are buying an apartment above, say, 12th floor, ideally there should not be any preferred location charge for example, park view for an apartment above 12th floor.
Everyone will have a park view from that height.
Yes. So, no, but you're not enjoying that view because it's not in your eye line.
Okay.
So, probably up to the 6th floor or the 9th floor, a park view facing can be charged, right? So, I agree. In most of the projects, 75%
So haven't you as an intermediary questioned this? Pankaj, why is every flat has a PLC? Why?
I would like to answer this question.
Yeah.
No, I would definitely like to answer this question. I did not defend my community on the EDC point, but I would definitely like to defend them here. It is a purely commercial decision. The PLC which is payable on any flat or any unit is declared upfront. It is for the buyer to whether to go for that unit or not go for that unit. It is a purely commercial thing. If you do not like the pricing, if you do not like the view, don't buy it. I mean, what is ethically wrong in 90 apartments out of 100 having a PLC? There's no problem. It is a commercial and a pricing issue. I do not think there is a ethical issue here at all.
Pankaj, why not put it in the BSP? It leaves buyers very confused. You know, everybody looks at the BSP.
Strategy.
Can I answer that question?
No.
Pankaj, I'll answer that question. You know, in your defense.
Manisha, if it is declared upfront, I do not find any problem with this.
I'll answer that question. I'll address Pankaj's view as well. Basically, Pankaj is absolutely right. It's a commercial decision, but why PLC in 75% of the apartments and not in 25%? Yeah, in 100, that happens. It can be added on to the BSP, but why it's not added on is because certain apartments are very inferior locations. So you need to differentiate the pricing between inferior, average and superior. That is what happens. So the developer also knows when he's on the planning stage that there are certain apartments from a Vastu perspective that may not be okay, certain apartments that may not get that kind of sunlight. So he is okay with letting those apartments go in pure BSP because he'll be saddled with that inventory. And with respect to the apartments that are average or above average, he'll charge differential PLC. And that's purely a pricing play. He could do it in BSP, but you know, like your pricing strategy is 99 rupees and not 100 rupees. They want to keep the BSP low because psychologically the person thinks the pluses I'll pay later and they won't affect me right now. So
Tell
it's a
me,
part psychological
as you
issue.
know, Federation of Apartments Owners, don't you wish that there was lesser of these plus charges and you just knew what price you were paying?
Says if this price has been disclosed upfront, no builder disclose it upfront. When he's selling,
That's not correct. That's not correct. I don't
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you how. Was declared upfront.
No, it is not upfront. It is not upfront. It is that this project with so many amenities, with a superstar club, etc. The brochure says this only. Is available at this price. Right now you said in your show that the property is available at a budget price of 25 lakhs. Nowhere does it say there will be PLC also. There will be this also. No, nowhere. It is only after you've made that booking amount and when your allotment is going to happen, at that time you will know that there is a PLC of 150 rupees or 300 rupees.
No. At that he's partly right. I'll answer that question. This is only in cases of pre-launches. There's only in cases where you are desperate to buy the apartment and you want to pay that 5 lakh booking check and not care about you're really an investor where you want to flip the property. So by the time the PLC even comes to you, you don't even really care about it because you've exited the property.
Plus minus 5%
if you are an end user, you'll wait for the launch to happen. When the launch happens, everything will be declared and then you buy.
Okay, so the PLC and other charges are absolutely a grey area if you're buying in the pre-launch phase.
Yes,
but they become,
right.
at least you can see the document and you know what you're going to pay for. If you buy it at the launch phase, when you have a buyer-seller agreement, this should be something which should be declared.
Even if we take their line of argument and it is declared beforehand that on the 18th floor there is a Parkview PLC. He says he's come down to the 6th floor and he says it's I-line. It is not. Even the 3rd floor guy, it's not I-line, park is not I-line for him. Maybe a ground floor person can pay PLC, but why on the 18th floor or the 20th floor?
So I think the whole concept of a PLC itself is debatable. I think that, you know, there's no way that 90% or 100% inventory in a project can be charged a PLC, and it is happening, Sameer. You're saying, you're taking, it is a commercial
psychologically trying to affect the customer by charging a low BSP and making him feel that way.
If it's a 99 rupees versus a 101 rupee, you can do barter pricing. This is not about barter pricing. The loading goes up to 40%.
But
of the
PLC
basic
has
cost.
nothing to do with loading.
No, all of these together, we are coming to covered parking charges, power backup charges, we are just looking at external electrification, firefighting charges, meter charges, club membership, all of that, right? So I'm just saying that the big question mark here, which probably Pankaj you would like to answer, is that when is it? I mean, does the industry believe, is there a thinking that maybe forget the club membership, but all of these other charges which are plus, and the plus list is probably growing by the day, should not be a plus? Why not sell at that super area? I know the regulator will probably compel everybody to do so if we do have a regulator, but would the industry be happy doing so and making it less confusing for the buyer?
No, I don't think the regulator is concerned with the pricing at all. The regulator is concerned with transparency. The regulator does not want you to foist hidden charges later on. And I'm sorry to say, Manisha, for once I disagree with you. Most of these charges are declared upfront. They're in the price list, and it is actually. And your question is, doesn't the builder community make life simpler for the buying community and club it all together in one bundled cost? Well, frankly, it is Bata pricing. It is optical pricing. It looks good. I went to buy a car a few days ago, and it was a fancy car, and the basic price was something, and they said, you have to pay extra for the armrest, you have to pay extra for this paint, for that paint, and it all came to something else. But the point is, it was being all told to me upfront, and I had a choice at that point in time to not buy the car. I went ahead and bought the car. If these charges are foisted upon me at a later date and I do not have a choice, then definitely the regulator would start getting interested, and definitely I don't think that I would condone that practice. But otherwise there is no problem. You always have a choice. Don't buy it. In fact, you can negotiate it. It is negotiable. You can negotiate. You can say, I'm not going to pay. Here's the check, but my friend, you're getting the check only if you negotiate. There's no problem.
I agree with Pankaj, because consumers also want to understand. So if I'm doing a 15,000 square feet club versus a 50,000 square feet club, my club charges will be different, right? If I am designing the project in such a manner that it is low density, it has only large apartments, okay, then probably I'll design in a manner where every apartment will have a park view, right? So I think what Pankaj is trying to say is that everything is open, the layouts are available, the site plan is available, and you are free to don't buy on the 18th floor with park view facing PLC, buy on the 6th floor. So all charges are transparent, and if you come out with all-inclusive pricing, okay, then it will be very difficult to differentiate between project to project, because the location is different, the way it is designed is different, the specs will be different.
I absolutely disagree.
So you need a breakup.
Absolutely disagree. If you were to bundle everything together, you would be able to say my product is an orange and that is an apple. Right now, everything looks like a little bit of an apple, and then you're just making it a different fruit. By the end of it you buy. Why not? Why not? I mean, why doesn't the industry have the guts to say, okay, if my project is at 7,500 square foot, guess what? I am giving you these extra amenities. Don't compare me to somebody who's saying that his project is at 5,500 square foot. Look, when you go and buy a car, Nishant, it's a very, very different proposition. There is a basic thing which is available for you at 15 lakhs. In housing, nothing comes at that basic cost. Am I correct or not, Ashish? What comes at the basic cost? You are forced to buy it with the PLC, with the car parking, with the thing. Tell me, if any apartment in Delhi, do you get it without a car parking? Can I opt and say, I don't want a car parking, I don't want a club facility, I will not pay for that club facility, I will not pay for the common area?
If somebody wants to buy 3 car parks, then they can
that's
buy.
all right.
One versus two.
You may buy, but the basic flat, the basic flat comes with all the basic charges. Those basic charges have to be clubbed, is all that I'm saying. You want extras thrown in? Fine, you throw them in.
Yeah, like example for the car that he used. He was getting a car seat or a hand seat with extra inside his car.
Yeah.
They are not saying that you will be charged more, but it will be in somebody's car. Here the PLC or the club charges or club facing charges, they are not giving me the ownership of that club. I'm just living on a floor where I can view the club, the walls of the club, and for that I have to pay PLC. For a park which I can see.
It's a bit of a grey area, I would say. That's
and you know
the way
what, Manisha, how this adds up. When at the later stage, when the stamp duty is charged for the valuation of the flat, these builders vary their additional charges to compute the valuation of the flat. Somebody will add EDC to the basic price, IDC to the basic price. The other guy will not. He will not add EDC, IDC. He will add another set of additional charges like the firefighting charge, electrification charge, the meter charge, while third builder will charge differently. These additional charges later on, these builders add up to the value for the valuation of the flat differently to allow the registering authority to also have some meat which is left on the consumer's
I
body.
don't agree with
don't
this.
know
The
whether
total,
that
the
meat will
total
go to the-
consideration of the apartment or a plot is mentioned in the builder-buyer agreement. Okay?
Right.
And whatever stamp duty, etc., will be paid on it. You cannot change the total consideration. It can change, for example, if the super area increases, etc., etc., or you upgrade the specifications. Instead of marble, you put imported marble, right? And it is informed in advance.
And that's
Otherwise,
also happening, Nishant,
Yeah, that's right, but
rampantly.
to Ashish's
Rampantly.
point, that the total consideration is decided at the time of booking. It can't change at the time of possession.
No, but for this valuation of the flat for the conveyance deed, this basic selling price and the additional costs are not charged. Selectively, the builder will charge basic selling price and EDC IDC or not EDC IDC, additional costs like park facing PLC or electrification charge. EDC
Are they
will not be
uniform
complete.
across different
It is not
geographies?
uniform.
Because land registration is geography wise. So shouldn't there be a specified list of what you can come?
So first of all, land is a state subject.
Correct.
So, for example, you have EDC in Gurgaon, you don't have EDC really of that amount in Noida. So it's different. In certain cities there will be no EDC, right? The Mumbai will not have any EDC. It will have some other type of charge. Because it being a state subject, it's different for
See,
every
look at
city
it.
and every
Okay,
state.
so I
And
think
then it's
I'm gonna-
developer specific. For example, DLF as a developer in Gurgaon has paid EDC 20 years ago. It's 10 rupees a square foot. If you were to launch a new project by a new developer, he'll have to pay 400 rupees a foot to the government. So there's a big difference already. So DLF doesn't charge EDC, it builds that in its price. So yes, unfortunately, you have to really live with that fact that the EDC that the developer is charging is also like a charge that he has created, and he can absorb it or he can pass it on to you and do a Bata kind of pricing.
kind of pricing. Okay, Pankaj, last word from you, because I do understand that, we would like more transparency in this business. I would like it on pricing as well, but that's a consumer demand. Maybe the industry may not think that's something that they need to move towards. But if out of all the things that we've discussed, there's one thing that you would like the developer community to totally be transparent about and change, what would that be?
The area calculations, frankly.
Okay. So you're saying...
I think it's high time that developers came out with the transparent calculations on their areas, how the super areas get calculated, how much area the customer is actually going to get. I think that should not be obscure at all.
All right, fair enough. I think, if that itself happens, it's a big
That's
move,
the
isn't it?
biggest
That's the biggest move.
That's equal
We
to
may
all
be-
the pluses put together and much more.
Okay, I think I'm going to wrap out the discussion. It's our job to keep having these debates and see which way, and at least force the developers, policymakers, all of them to converge, and even, buyers to start demanding certain better practices. Ashish, Nishant and Pankaj, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining it.